We're going to go ahead and open up day 2 of this really historic African Internationalist Conference on African Women. Aren't you glad to be here again with us? I know I'm glad to be here. We had a really power-packed day 1 of the conference. We heard some really important workshops. We had a workshop opened up by Comrade Ejide, where we talked about the special oppression of African women and the African Internationalist understanding of the special oppression of African women. We had a really dynamic presentation by the chairman of the African Socialist International, our chairman, Omali Yeshitela, who just really gave us a great world summation and made the call for African women to really come into this movement and to build the African Revolution. We had workshops on building the African People's Free Child Care Collective by Secretary General Gaeta Cambone. We had a workshop on horizontal violence. And we had such spirited discussion that we really didn't get a chance to complete our program on yesterday. So we got a lot to do today. But the main purpose of day 2 is to really consolidate the African National Women's Organization. That's why we're here. We're here to bring African women into active political life. So this is really going to be a really important day of our conference. We are going to have 2 really very important workshops that we're going to have this morning before we go into the process of really digging into the specifics of ANWO, the Constitution, the resolution, so that we can, once we leave this conference, have the ability to have a basic program that we're going to be able to take out into the world as the African National Women's Organization. So to get us started though, before we get started, I do want to make a couple of quick announcements. We do have child care happening. Now, first of all, I really want to salute and thank the young sister, Naja, who held down child care yesterday. So I really want to appreciate her, for stepping up. And I really want to appreciate, in particular, the other young sister, Mia, who is about 12 years old. She said, I'm going to be here to help Naja, take care of the little ones. So that's the spirit that we want, for our people to have. And she said, and by the way, I do art. And I write poetry, so where do I fit in this movement? So we got work for you to in this movement. So we really want to appreciate that. We want to appreciate the other mothers who contributed to the Child Care Collective, which is what we're doing as a part of this conference. So any parent who has a child in child care, we're asking for you to give 1 hour to the Child Care Collective. So please go to the child care room and see what time would work best for you. And anybody else who doesn't have a child, who wants to be able to contribute to this collective, please do so by going to the child care room and giving an hour today. So we're going to have a really dynamic cultural worker come up and do a poetry piece for us. Deborah Fofi Warren is a legendary poet with 2 feet on earth and 2 feet in spirit, bringing truth 4 feet deep. Let's bring up our comrade.
Okay, let's get it. On November 11th, 2011, we were at Mabel's table while the crowd was dancing and the music was loud. The moon shined off the Pacific as the waves rolled in and hit the shores, the rocks beneath the cliff. And from my third eye, I saw 3 shadows standing at the edge of the cliff, and one was pushed over. I said, what's going on? Who is this? She came to me and she said, 4 feet, I know you will understand as a survivor of abuse at the hand of a man. And she said at 14, it was her birthday, and the village was ready to prepare and have fun, and her father was the chief who was away, but he was planning to come back that day. But the night when it was quiet, they came. They came with the looting and the killing and the raping and the screaming, and all were dead except those they took away to the camp that was moving to Cape Coast, and the thought of going through the door of no return made her heart burn. Her father told her if she was ever taken away from home, just follow where the shore leads hit the rocks and the moon on her right side, and she will find her way home. She did not want to go through the door of no return. So every night as they traveled, she would run away. But they would catch her and bring her back. She would run away every night, every night. She was determined to run away, but she had one day left before they reached the destination, so she waited until the camp was eerily quiet. She ran away and she got far, far, far away from the camp where no one could hear. She found herself at the cliff, and as she looked out and saw the moon shining in the Pacific and the waves coming, hitting the rocks at the edge of the cliff, they found her. And when they found her, they beat her, they raped her, they beat her, and they raped her again. And in the end, they threw her body over the cliff, where the Pacific rolled in and washed her body out. She said her name several times in her native language, but I couldn't understand, so she said, Fofi, call me, call me, call me free. And every woman of African descent, of African heritage, should know who we are. We should know who we are. Her Doja.
Call me, call me, call me free.
Aisha.
Call me, call me, call me free.
Kadithia.
Call me, call me, call me free.
Denise.
Call me, call me, call me free.
Sister Gaeta.
Call me, call me, call me free.
Sister Ona.
Call me, call me, call me free.
Sister.
Call me, call me, call me free.
All right. Sister Zenobia.
Call me free.
Sister. Sisters.
Call me free.
Reese.
Call me free. Fofi.
Call me. 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 Free. Uhuru.
I'm not quite 4 feet, but I'm gonna keep it like this. All right, we're gonna have a few adjustments to the program, so just, you'll be okay. We're gonna move a few things around. Remember, we had that workshop yesterday on economic development that I know some of you all were waiting with eager anticipation for. Well, now is your time. We're gonna have a really wonderful presentation. I want to, first of all, read the bio for our comrade, Deputy Chair Ona Zene-Yeshitela, who's going to present on economic development for African women. Ona Zene-Yeshitela, Deputy Chairwoman of the African People's Socialist Party, began contributing to the movement in 1995-96 by starting the first food co-op. Ona Zene joined the party on January 31st, 2010. She then joined the committee to elect Omali Yeshitela for mayor of St. Petersburg in 2001. As a member of MPDM, Ona Zene was appointed and developed the office of the National Treasurer. She developed the MPDM membership and sustainer program, including the point of entry process for recruitment and winning members and donors. As a member of the party, Ona Zene-Yeshitela was assigned Chief of Staff of the Office of the Chairman and later appointed Deputy Chair to build the capacity of the Office of the Chair, and began building the office to its fullest capacity, including staff. Ona Zene led the party's goal for updating and revising the APSP organizational manual as mandated by the Fifth Party Congress. For the past 2 years, the Office of the Chairman has assumed strategic and practical leadership of the Office of Economic Development and Finance, and Deputy Chair Ona Zene is spearheading that transition. She has brought the vision of the chairman to the economic front of our movement and brought science, systems, protocols, and accountability to the Office of Economic Development and Finance. Deputy Chair Ona Zene not only directs the Office of Economic Development and Finance, but also has for the past 4 years temporarily assumed the role of board president of the African People's Education and Defense Fund, and has been developing the economic capacity of all of the APEDF institutions: Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles in Philadelphia and Oakland, Uhuru Houses in St. Petersburg and Oakland, the Tyron Lewis Community Gym in St. Petersburg, Uhuru Jiko, and Aquaba Halls. ONA is responsible for developing a human resources department that can be reproduced throughout the movement. Deputy Chair is leading the charge to concretize the struggle of our party and people for self-government, which includes her position as Vice President over Black Star Industries, which houses all APSP economic institutions: Uhuru Foods and Pies, Uhuru News and Radio, One Africa, One Nation Marketplaces, Uhuru Planet, and Burning Spear Publications. She builds organization in every area she is over and has set the example by building the Office of Economic Development to capacity. Everything you admire about the beauty and decor of the Uhuru House in Aquaba Hall can be attributed to the leadership of Deputy Chair, who displayed the heroic vision, the heroic history of our movement and our chairman and our struggle for freedom and independence. The Office of Deputy Chair's goal in this period is to reproduce all the economic institutions of the party all over the world. So I really want to salute and bring forward one of the baddest women I have the pleasure of knowing, Comrade Deputy Chair
Uhuru. Wow. I didn't know that I did all that. But I do, and I'm really proud to be a member of the African People's Socialist Party, and I'm really, really excited to be in this conference, and I really want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this conference. We got some badass women up in here. Yesterday was really powerful and dynamic, and I'm sure today is not going to be an exception. So we really want to make this organization where we can empower women and men, because we have to build the African nation. We can't build it by ourselves. We have to have men help as well. So, and two, I just want to really acknowledge the mothers in Ferguson. You know, for so long we've been the object of history. Now we're going to be the subject of history. This conference is going to make sure that. So again, I want to express my appreciation for the conference. As a member of the National Central Committee of the African People's Socialist Party, I want to recognize my leader, Chairman Omali Shitela, who has for over 40 years has dedicated his life to overturning the social system so Africa and African people can be free in this lifetime. I want to also express my profound appreciation to Ejide Oboroma for leading the way forward for African women to play a major role in the revolution and bring them into political life. I also want to express my appreciation to the organizing committee. Wow, it's been 6 months since we've been doing this, just like Aisha was saying, and it is phenomenal. We really made it through, and we're going to do this very same conference in Europe next week, where Ejide and Aisha is going to be traveling there. The sisters there, Makta and Sia and Pat and Kashinda, they're putting it down. We'll be there in a minute, comrades, to duplicate this. So I really want to appreciate too, Sister Tammy, Sister Aldeli, Gaida, Aisha, Tammy, who did I leave out? And myself. Tiffany Murphy, who could not be here, who was over some of the economic areas of this conference. So I just really want to appreciate you sisters and tell you that this is only the beginning. We're gonna knock it out the park. So I have been a member of the party for about 5 years now, but I have been involved in the movement since 1994. African leadership of women was evident and central to this movement, and I knew I wanted to be a part of an organization that was fighting for women and African people as a whole to be free. I changed my name from Cynthia Diane, my father named me that, to Ona. Ona is a West African name that means fire. At the time that I did that, I did not know that George Washington owned a slave named Ona. Ona George was Martha Washington's personal slave, and by the way, Martha Washington brought more slaves into the marriage than George did, so she was a slave owner. Yeah. It was at a time when Martha was going to give Ona to her niece as a wedding gift. Ona said, She said, I ain't having that now. So Ona, she escaped in 1790. She got married, had 3 children. George Washington, they placed ads in the newspaper looking for her up until the day he died. You know, one of the ads stated that that he was looking for her. She was a well-dressed woman. You know, she had many different outfits, you know, he was saying. I mean, he put this in a newspaper, and he said that anybody that brought her back would get $10. So you can see what they value life of a woman. $10. And he said that if you travel from any place far and brought her to him, that he would pay for what we call traveling expenses now. So Ona escaped, they never caught her, and she lived a long life. And I'm saying that to say that, you know, we have to know our history. We got to know who we were to become who we're going to be. And, you know, if I had known that a long time ago, I would have changed my name, you know, so long ago. But I'm just glad to know that Ona represents, you know, a woman fighting for her freedom. And I'm going to continue to do that to the day I die. The workshop that I was asked to present on is Freedom Ain't Free, Economic Development for African Women. But this is not going to be a discussion on economics as we know it. Economics as we know it takes place in the context of the social system that guides startup capital or primitive accumulation by capturing, brutalizing, and selling us. Us meaning African people. Our great-grandparents for what? To benefit the development of Europe and the U.S., the white world, at the expense of the development of Africa and African people worldwide. It is an economic system under capitalism that is parasitic, taking us from an oppressed people of the world to benefit white power. As you can see today, the world around us is changing. Oppressed people are fighting and demanding control of their land and resources, and the powers that be cannot win this struggle because the enslaved is speaking for ourselves now. While we used to be objects of history, we are increasingly become subjects of history, which has this world in a state of uneasy equilibrium. Africa and Africans have taken care of Europeans for more than 500 years, while our own people have faced hardship and starvation in Africa and throughout the world. In fact, Africa and Africans has been a part of someone else's economy. Now we have to build for ourselves in the process of consolidating the whole African nation. Now it's past time for Africans to take care of ourselves. We need an independent economy that is going to be able to feed, clothe, and house Africans. Period. We need an economy that would inspire our children and our people to greatness. We need an African people to unite and consolidate the African nation. We need our own economic foundation. To understand how we got to this place, we have to understand African internationalism. It is the viewpoint that comes from our own perspective and experiences. We came from Africa where we had peace, harmony, and a collected life as Africans. And as African women, we had the power connected to the land. We own land. We had land ownership, the basis of matriarchy society. We are not talking about building an economy to further capitalism, an economy based on exploitation and brutality. It is an economy founded in the trade of African people, the slave trade. An economy built on committing genocide against the indigenous people of this land. As African internationalism teaches us, we're talking about an economy that liberates us, that is developed in the context of African liberation and consolidating the African nation. Tearing down them damn borders that keep us from our resources that are bountiful resources and materials in Africa that rightfully belong to us and African people. While this discussion in this workshop is one that aspires to provide leadership of African women to be able to engage in the question of economic development, we cannot forget that African women, we have caught hell.
Yes.
I mean, hell.
Yes.
We fought every step of the way from slavery, where we've been raped by the slave masters, to working from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, to taking white babies, picking cotton, and being abused every damn day.
Yes.
This shit has got to stop today. Historically, it has come to the question of white women or European women. While they fought for economic independence, it was only for themselves.
Yes, it was.
Even when they were making the struggle that they would have African women come in and take care of their homes and their children, while they pursued their independence and their struggle for equality with white men, basically to control half of the resources that came at the expense of African people.
Yes.
The real point we are making is that the condition of African people as a whole, including African women, is a reflection of colonial domination of African people. Now we know why Chairman Omali Shatella has stated there is no such thing as women in general when we talk about women.
Yes.
It is patently ridiculous and unrealistic to assume that there can be any economic freedom or economic independence for African women without fighting for economic freedom and independence for the whole nation as a whole. Since its inception, we of the African People's Socialist Party have been developing economic institutions and programs that are designed to create the foundation for independent, liberated economy for African people. And towards this end, there are several things we have done and are doing to offer an opportunity for African women to become engaged and fight for economic interests, while at the same time promoting the economic interests for the whole African nation. As Chairman Omali Shatella always states, we don't have to make up anything on white people. All we have to do is look at our history and our statistics. And here are some of the dire statistics that African women face in the U.S. today. The unemployment rate for African women more than 20 years of age increased above 2012 averages and was 180% more than that of white women in the second quarter of 2013. African women unemployment rate is 10.5% compared to 5.8% for white women. Over a 5-year period, the incarceration rate of African women increased 828%.
Yes.
828%. An African woman is 8 times more likely than a Euro-American woman to be in prison. African women make up nearly half of the nation's female prison population, with the most serving sentences for nonviolent drug and property-related offenses. The poverty rate for African women is 28.6% in comparison. The poverty rate for white women is 10.8%. African women represent 65% of the new AIDS diagnoses among women. We don't have to take this shit no more. You can join the economic development work of the African People's Socialist Party and the African Nationalist Women Conference to make a change. The party has developed many programs and institutions that exist right now, and we have created Lifestride Industries that is the seed for building the liberated economy for the whole people. And we want you to be a part of it. We have a brief video right now that we want to show some of the work that we've done over the past 30 plus years of the party. So we're going to show that video and we'll come back.
From day one, the African People's Socialist Party has always struggled with self-reliance. We've done car washes, fish fries, picked oranges, and even lived in collectives, rotating so one person could work for a period, so others could be full-time organizers. During the entire 40-plus years of the party's work, we have built programs, institutions, organizations, and campaigns to meet the political and economic needs of our people and to advance our movement. Since 1994, the African People's Education and Defense Fund, APEDF, has developed community-run programs in this historically oppressed community and other cities nationally to address the grave disparities in health, education, and economic development. APDF has a track record of providing solutions and making a strong positive impact on the condition of poverty, unemployment, poor health care, and lack of economic development for the African community. The Uhuru House Community Center features community youth programs that create real community commerce, self-sustaining economic activities, and employment opportunities. These APDF programs and facilities have made a tremendous difference in the lives of families in South St. Petersburg, East Oakland, and Philadelphia. Uhuru GCO Community Commercial Kitchen offer caterers, food truck operators, and others to use their talents and entrepreneur spirits to develop local food service businesses. GCO will soon provide classes in healthy nutrition and cooking and business development. Aquaba Hall hosts cultural, social, and community events such as educational forums and conferences, theater and performing arts productions, student tutoring, CNA training classes, and more. The hall is also available as an affordable rental space for important community celebrations such as graduations, weddings, baby showers, Kwanzaa celebrations, and family reunions. APDF is funded solely by community support, not by agencies or grants. Our community counts on us to offer these type of programs. We count on you to join the many businesses and individuals who contribute to the positive future that benefits us all. You can come in now and make a difference. Bring your skills and expertise into Black Star Industries, building economic foundations for and between African people worldwide. Uhuru Foods and Pies is one of the dynamic economic development institutions of Black Star Industries. Named for the Swahili word freedom, Uhuru Foods and Pies is a subsidiary of Black Star Industries, a Black-led self-determination program of the African People's Socialist Party, the worldwide organization building for African liberation and unification. Uhuru Foods and Pies is not a business owned by individuals, but a part of an independent African economy that African people are building once again. BSI believes that not one child should go hungry, not one family should be homeless, not one youth shall be without a positive future, not one elder shall be disrespected and alone, not one African shall be thrown into prison by a system that makes money from his or her incarceration. BSI is based on the understanding that capitalism is an unjust social system that came into being through slavery, violence, and genocide. Ultimately, the vision of Uhuru Foods and Pies is about putting the means to grow, produce, and distribute fresh food into the hands of African people. The vision of Uhuru Foods and Pies includes the goals to control our own land, farms, trucking, baking, cooking, and distribution of food, none of which African people are able to carry out on a large scale inside the U.S., Africa, or anywhere else in the world today. Nothing says more clearly to our people and the world that we are about the assumption of actual self-determination than our economic programs through which we achieve self-reliance. We reiterate, there is no such thing as self-determination independent of self-reliance. They go hand in hand. For over 30 years, Uhuru Foods and Pies have been carried out by the most incredible volunteers in several cities throughout the country, with Oakland and St. Petersburg leading the way. We've done street fairs, catering, markets, theater concessions, coffee cart, and a bakery cafe, and popular music events. And now it's time to take Uhuru Foods and Pies to the next level and develop a model that enables us to launch Uhuru Foods and Pies nationally. Today, the momentum behind social-minded and sustainable business practices is growing incredibly strong. The Uhuru movement has laid the groundwork for this next leap. It is not just a pie or a breakfast. It is a cause that forwards the right of African people ourselves to determine our own lives and future. So how do we go from a primarily volunteer enterprise to one that not only increases our volunteers, but also meet the strategic goal of Black Star Industries to bring economic development projects to benefit the African working class community? While Black Star Industries is a LLC, the new model will require us to transition to a benefit corporation, which is a new class of business, a legal entity which is required by law to create a general benefit for society. Benefit corporations must have a material positive impact on society and must consider how their decisions affect their employees, their community, and their environment. Phase 1, Workforce Development. Black Star Industry feels that employment is the most critical need for self-reliance and self-determination for the African working class. Workforce development will provide training in financial literacy and tools for educational advancement, with specific focus on skill set development for Hura Foods and Pies that offers a livable wage. At a future time, we will open up training and employment for other Black Star Industries entities. These programs does not negate our volunteer program, but it meets the strategic objective of Black Star Industries to bring an economic development program to the African community by providing the training for jobs, creating community commerce, and building the Hura Foods and Pies. The program will only offer jobs and trainings in which we have the expertise and the need. The program will build on Hura Foods and Pies' long history and practices, including operating a Hura Bakery Cafe and Catering, and a Hura GCO. The Workforce Development Program will assist adults with barriers to employment, those with minimal education and work experience, a history of incarceration, drug and alcohol use, and homelessness. Our target population would be African people who has been incarcerated. Black Star Industry recognized the colonial conditions that results in mass incarceration of African men and African women, who are now the fastest growing sector of people being incarcerated, in particular in private-owned prisons, locking them up to ensure they would never again gain the skills needed to better their life and chances for their children and family. This leaves African children to fend for themselves in poverty. Phase 2, Housing Initiative. Black Star Industry has begun its property acquisition. We have one Black Star Industry home that is used to house our staff at affordable monthly rent to address affordable housing needs in our community. The provision of affordable housing is essential to helping African people achieve self-sufficiency. Phase 3, Community Gardens. Black Star Industries and Hura Foods and Pies will continue the Uhuru movement tradition of building backyard and community gardens. Backyard gardens will not only be a source of food for all programs participants, but also used in bartering and trade within the community for other produce. Members of our program will grow food for ingredients needed for Hura Foods and Pies, relearn African farming skills, and save money on store-bought products. Phase 4, Child Care Collective. With an estimated 67% or more of African children being born to African women outside traditional marriage, African women as sole child caregivers are locked into a severe social, economic, and political dilemma. Capitalist society has robbed the African community of its tradition of collective living. Meanwhile, African women do not have the economic means for individual child care. This prevents African women from full participation in economic, political, and social life. The African Internationalist Women's Conference will support building child care collectives to help African working class single mothers and the African family become self-reliant and independent through reinstitutionalizing the tradition of African collective based on modern social principles. BSI will partner with African National Women's Organization to develop this initiative. This is an exciting development, and we want you to be a part of achieving this vision. It's bigger than building a Hura Foods and Pies. It's building an economy that involves sectors of the African working class that have been pushed out of the productive life of the African community and society as a whole. We will be building Uhuru Foods and Pies by meeting all the needs of a worker for food, clothing, shelter, collective community childcare, and meaningful work. We are asking you to join Black Star Industries' economic front to build a free and independent African economy. If you unite with this project, sign up for Black Star Industry today. Get involved wherever you live. Call 727-914-3607. Email us at info@bsi1billionstrong.com. Join today. Uhuru.
I do want to send a shout out to Uhuru Design Studio, who has put this video together, and also all the propaganda, the women's logo, the souvenir book, everything that you see, the t-shirts, was done through Uhuru Design Studio, which is laid out of my office. And Charles Oliver is the person that I would really want to put forward with that. But as you can see, the concrete work is real, and we're asking the Women Conference to take on this initiative to help us put it off the ground. So I know we're supposed to do a resolution, and I don't know if you're reading the resolution, Day or Aisha?
We're going to read the resolution after, in the second part of it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I just want to go ahead and open it up for questions and answers. I don't know the program because it got changed.
We can open it up for question and answer now.
And two, if you're in line with everything that you saw, we have sign-up sheets back at the BSI table. We would be happy for you to come and join us in helping us build this initiative, because as you can see, that it's covering food, clothing, and shelter, and we want to, offer jobs for African men and women who have been incarcerated.
Yes.
I had 5 brothers, and all of them had been, in prison system somewhere or another. And when they got out, when you have a felony in this country, you're not able to get a good job, so what you do, you go back and you go back again, you keep going back. So BSI, we want to offer this opportunity to bring African men and women into Black Star Industries to help them get full employment, training, and development. So that's our goal for making it happen. Uhuru.
So if anyone has a question or a comment around this presentation, you can go to the microphone here to your left.
Good morning. My question is, I want to participate, but I don't live in Oakland, St. Petersburg, and Philadelphia. So how would I contribute?
Well, where do you live?
Right now I live in South Jersey.
It doesn't matter where you, let me just say, it doesn't matter where you live. We could make you fit in some kind of way. This initiative is just getting off the ground, and we're going to need people, accountants. We're going to need people that have different kind of skills. So I will definitely, put you on a sign-up list, and anybody else that wants to contribute. You don't have to live in those 3 cities to participate.
I don't mind traveling.
We travel a lot.
Thank you for that presentation, sister. I'm very excited. I'm so anxious to get started.
Good.
All of the basics you mentioned, and this is what we have to cover: food, clothing.
Yes.
We have to do our own
Yes.
things
Yes.
that sustain our own life.
Yes.
And there's just infinite possibilities. And thank you. And I'm ready.
All
All
right.
right.
Can you say more about the housing acquisition and how that gets to single husband ready?
Well, right now, as you know, all over the country, they have houses that are foreclosed on. So in St. Petersburg, we can get a house for like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. And what we're doing is we purchased our first home by July of last year. And we feel that when people come in, as being incarcerated or whatever need they need, housing is one of the things that they can't afford, to have. So we want to be able to provide housing at a low rent, and also be able to provide them a job and a place to stay. Those are the basics needs that, everybody needs to survive. So that initiative is really starting to take off now.
we hope to be purchasing a couple more homes under BSI so we can really start this initiative. Because people have to have a place to stay, and when you're homeless or you need a job, that's, you know, you're looking for a place to stay. So we want to offer that to people under this initiative. Uhuru Kanithia.
I was wondering if there's like room or if there's an opportunity to start other like projects inside of that. I know you have work that's been more established, you know, for a longer period of time, but like I've been thinking about some things, especially since being here yesterday, and different things that we can use that are resources that are basically natural resources that we have in St. Louis that are particularly like unique to that area. Especially considering that there's a lot of artists there. There's a lot of artistry. And I was thinking about, I do like voiceover work as well. And I think about how a lot of times we put ourselves in these different fields, and we're working from the aspect that we're trying to appeal to another demographic of people. We're trying to appeal to white people. We have a tendency. I've heard voiceover work where I'd be like, I didn't even know that was a sister, you know, that was delivering that. And we have to learn how to, I'm just thinking about the fact that we have to learn how to accept ourselves, and in accepting ourselves, maybe build entertainment for us, and an entertainment structure that addresses, you know, and reflects who we are as people. And if there's a possibility to start something like that, like, you know, our own entertainment type company or whatever, our own entertainment agency, or, you know, like I said, I did voiceover work, but I always went to work for these agencies where I had to compete with black people that were trying to sound white, and white folks that already sound white. So, it was just, you know, it was just one of those things where I was really, you know, thinking about, like I said, what could possibly come out of that type of situation where we have so many artists, and there's like this big demand for, you know, us to be represented, but we're just kind of kicking around and trying to make our way, and all of us in St. Louis essentially are starving artists, you know, for real. So
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because we you know, initially we said that we wanted to build on what we have right now. But there are going to be rooms, you know, for people to come in and do other projects. And that is definitely a project that I know the chairman has been pushing as well to happen. So any ideas that you have that you want to bring, you know, see me. You know, you got my number, you can call me, and, you know, I'm open to, you know, doing anything that's going to forward our people and make it happen. So, yes. And I just want to say, too, that, you know, in St. Petersburg, we do have a studio, a recording studio, and we just been approved for a low-power radio, FM radio station. Woo! Yes. So, I mean, we're building, so that would go hand in hand, too, with, you know, the artists having a big outlet to, you know, contribute to Kanithia.
I wanted to express appreciation for the presentation, and also to comment on the issue of the housing, house acquisitions, land property acquisitions, because one of the things that we have to have housing for is we need to be able to get Africans from any place in the world to come into St. Petersburg. People who have skills and things that can be contributed to this overall project, the economic as well as other projects. And for that to happen, sometimes people are going to have to make certain kinds of economic sacrifices to do that, to leave wherever it is they are, to come, you know, to the city. People are going to have to be housed. That's one of the things that really eats into cost in terms of how people survive, housing. So we can acquire housing that can sometimes establish collectives and things like that where Africans are willing to come and do the work, but they gotta have a place to stay and they gotta have at least enough to sustain themselves. So that's one of the things that makes us excited about the housing acquisition as well. It's something we've done in the past without purchasing our own properties as we have begun to do now. So that's something that's high on the list because we need that expertise. We need people with the skills and what have you to come in and help to consolidate this operation. Sister says she's ready to travel and what have you. Well, we need for her to be able to travel, come in, bring what kind of expertise she's got to contribute to developing the whole program. Because sometimes our limitations are based on the expertise we have at our command to grow the economic work that we want it to be. Sister Kenethia raised some things about possibilities. We start off in some ways saying, well, these are our limitations. And I think that what our real limitation is having forces who can actually contribute to the whole economic structure that will help us to do what has to be done. We do have a Quabbah Hall in St. Petersburg, and we have, in a kind of fit and start way, begun to work on the cultural level. We had begun developing a recording studio that really got delayed, and that's good because now it probably will contribute to what's going to be the radio station, FM radio station. But we have a really world-renowned artist who is over Uhuru Radio, Ron Bob Simple, who's a stage actor, has been for a long time, does voiceover and all this other kind of stuff. We've done a couple of productions, theater productions at Quabbah Hall. We want to turn the Quabbah Hall into a real cultural center where we can do theater and bring people from the community. People got stories in the community. People can write their own stories and we can help them write. We want to be able to help them write their stories. Want to be able to help them write their plays. Want to be able to help them not only act out the plays, but build the scenery and do other kinds of props and stuff like that and become adept at that. And I think that we're talking about some kind of theater company being born out of that, among the other things that we would do. But the expertise is a critical question. That's why recruitment and people coming into revolutionary work is so important. Because we got a whole bunch of Negroes who are artists. We got people who just incredible artists and whatever, but toward what end? Right. That's the thing that we keep getting stuck with. You know, people got all these artistic skills, but where is it going to take us? And artists have to play a role in forwarding revolution. Artists have this incredible potential to show us the future. We're talking about all what the revolution is going to be, etc. Artists can help us see it before it gets there, and that's their responsibility, because knowing that we oppress, everybody knows we oppress, well, what the hell? We have to be able to show a vision of the future, and artists can contribute to that in a way that's greater than most of us. So we have to be able to create that capacity. We want to do that, and we want to overcome whatever limitations that stand between us and making that happen. And the only thing that right now, I think the biggest problem that we have is having access to the talent, skills, and what have you to grow this economic work the way it should be grown. And our objective, and this is something that's really important, that's why I'm glad we got so many working class, this is a working class community that we are looking at. Our objective is to govern. Yes. Do you understand? We are building to govern. We're not in this to try to find a way to keep on getting along in this thing. Our objective is to take the power and become a self-governing people. That requires us harnessing all the skills and resources that we got and put it to work to being self-governing and self-determining people in the real world. That's why these programs are so important. Concrete manifestations of the intent to grow our own independent economic capacity. Uhuru.
part of the deputy chair's office. Just,
face.
please just come to the back table and we'll make it happen. Thank you, comrades.
I really want to express appreciation for Deputy Chair Ona and for the members of her office and for the chairman for having the vision to build an organization that addresses all of the critical questions that we're confronted with as African people. You know, when you have conferences and people talk about, well, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to do it? Good plan, but, you know, this movement, this party,